And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Sports Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Tuesday, April 15th. We have a lot to cover on the show today. Before I get into all that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. Makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCPodcast.net. That is GSMCPodcast.net. So, let's get into what we are going to discuss for today. So, we're going to start off the show. We're going to preview the two play-in games for tonight in the NBA. One Eastern Conference game, one Western Conference game. We got the Hawks and the Magic, and then the Grizzlies and the Warriors later tonight. Then we will also talk about the Suns. They fired their head coach, Mike Budenholzer, after one season. And this is now the third time in the last 3 years that the Suns have hired a coach or actually, no, shouldn't say that. They have let go of a coach, simply. The last two coaches they have brought in and let go after 1 year. That was Frank Vogel last year, now Mike Budenholzer this year, and of course before that they had Monty Williams, who they went to the finals with, but they let him go before that. So yeah, they've had three coaches in 3 years. So we'll get into that. We'll talk about the big series in baseball between two of the hottest teams in the National League, in the Chicago Cubs and the San Diego Padres. The Padres won the first game last night, but we'll talk about that series. Both teams, like I said, have gotten off to good starts. Cubs are coming off of a series win against the Dodgers. We'll also talk about Aaron Judge being named team captain of the USA team for next year's World Baseball Classic. And then in the final part of the show, we will continue our post-free agency rankings. Today we will be covering the AFC East. So let's get into the first topic, which is previewing these two play-in games tonight. So these games will be on TNT. First game will be the Hawks and the Magic. And then, like I said, later tonight, we will have the Grizzlies and the Warriors. That game I'm more excited for. I think that's the better game of the two. I think really everything, when you look at it, the Western Conference is better than the Eastern Conference. Now, we do have some good series coming up that have been finalized, like, the Pistons and the Knicks and the Pacers and the Bucks. Those are good series. But I do think you could see potential upsets in the Western Conference more so than in the Eastern Conference. Like, I don't see, the Magic, I think I'm picking them to win tonight. I don't see them, if they win tonight and they play the Celtics, I don't think they're going to upset the Celtics. Like, I don't see that happening. And, whoever gets that 8th seed, whether it's the Hawks, the Magic, the Heat, or the Bulls, I don't think anybody's upsetting the Cavs. So, but, I could see, if the Warriors, if they're the 7th seed, it's possible they could upset the Rockets. That's just how I feel. That's me as a casual saying this. So, if you disagree, you are more than welcome to voice that in the comments. But, yeah, so the Magic, last year, they played the Cavs in the first round, though. And that series got pushed to 7 games. Now, they ended up losing, but they're back in it. Well, they're not back in the playoffs yet. They dealt with a lot of injuries this year to their top players. One of their top players will not be playing in this game, and that's Jalen Suggs. But, they got Paulo Banchero back. They got Franz Wagner back. So, they're ready to go for this game. They finished 41-41 on the season. Now, I know from some of the things that I was looking at, the Hawks, I think, could struggle with going up against Paulo Banchero. They don't really have someone that can match up with him. The Hawks have kind of been a staple in this play-in tournament. They've been in it 4 out of the 5 years that this thing has been implemented, which I can't believe the play-in is 5 years old already. Again, that just shows you how fast time has flown over the years. But, yeah, the Hawks have been in it a lot. And both teams, when they've matched up against each other this year, they've gone 2-2. Both teams have won a home game and both teams have won a road game, respectively. So, the most recent meeting, the Hawks won 117-105. And then the previous meeting before that, the Magic won 119-112. Paolo Banchero had 33 points in that contest. Now, this is the Magic's first ever appearance in the play-in tournament. They finished 9-3 in their last 12 games. Like I said, they finished at 500 exactly, 41-41. Paolo Banchero has been looking good since March 19th, since he came back from injuries. He's averaged 28.2 points per game on 47.6% shooting, which is good. The Hawks, they've played well towards the end of the season here. Not as good as the Magic, but they've been playing some good basketball as well. Trae Young, in his last 2 road wins, he's averaging 30 points. So, yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a competitive game. Actually, the Magic, they were 32-38. And they were able to finish at exactly 500. So, yeah, that just shows you that they really are starting to gel at the right time. Right now, the Hawks are 5.5-point underdogs. The total is 219. So, and the money line, currently it's the Hawks are plus 175, Magic are 208, and they're at home. Like I said, I like the Magic to win this game. I think it could be a competitive game. But I think I'm going to go with I think I am going to go with the Magic here. Take them in a close game. I think Trae Young, of course, will show up and have a big day. But I am gonna roll with the Magic here tonight. Now, the game, like I said, that I am more excited for is the Warriors and the Grizzlies. Now, the Grizzlies, it's been an interesting sequence of events for them. I mean, they were near the top of the Western Conference standings, and then, they've kind of fallen off, and then they ended up letting go of their head coach. First of 2 teams to do that right before the playoffs. But, yeah, right now they are the 8th seed. And, I think this is going to be another competitive game here. The Warriors, I mean, that loss to the Clippers really hurt them because, then if they would have won that, they would have avoided playing in the play-in. But here they are again. They've been in it before. And they are 0-3 in play-in games, which is kind of surprising. You feel like they would be able to make it out. I know they played the Lakers once. They played the Kings another time. I think that was that last year? Might have been last year. But, yeah, they're 0-3 in play-in games. And, and actually, I think the Grizzlies was the other time, too, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, the Warriors will be at home here. Jimmy Butler, of course, is now a part of the squad. I like the Warriors to win tonight. Yeah, I feel like they should win tonight. The Grizzlies, I think, will find themselves in the playoffs, if they end up losing and they go up against the Kings or the Mavericks. But, I'm looking forward to that battle between Steph Curry and John Morant tonight. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch. But, hey, listen. This is going to be the start of playoff Steph and playoff Jimmy. Now with Jimmy Butler on the team, and he is presumably healthy. Let's see him go out there and play well for this team. And, the Warriors, they have the experience, of course. I mean, the Grizzlies have been in the playoffs, and obviously they've been in the play-in before. But I can't pick against the Warriors here, even though, yeah, it hasn't been great in the play-in. But they're due to win a play-in game, right? So I'm going to take the Warriors. They're 7-point favorites. I mean, I think, again, this game I think is going to be close. So we'll see what happens. But, yeah, that'll be later tonight. That's 10 p.m. Eastern time. That's on TNT. That's the second of the two games. So, yeah, I got the Magic and the Warriors winning tonight. But, again, anything can happen. I don't think there's an overwhelming favorite here in this game. Like, I know we look at the spreads here, but, I could see the Hawks winning tonight. I could definitely see the Grizzlies winning tonight. But I'm going to favor the home teams tonight. So, let me know what you guys think, though, about the play-in games for tonight. Who do you have winning? Like, we'll recap the games tomorrow, and we'll preview the other two games that are on tomorrow. The Bulls and the Heat, and then the Mavericks and the Kings. So, yeah, make sure to tune in for that when we preview those. But, yeah, Magic and Warriors I have winning tonight and getting into the playoffs. And that will mean that the Magic will play the Celtics. Warriors will then play the Rockets. So, all right, we are going to take our first break of the show now. And then when we come back, we will talk about the Suns letting go of their head coach, Mike Budenholzer, after one season. And, again, the Suns making headlines for not the best reasons, So we will get into that when we come back from our first break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are now going to talk about the Suns firing their head coach, Mike Budenholzer, after one season. I tried to pronounce it the right way. But yes, they have fired him after 1 year, and that's the second time in 2 years that the Suns have let go of a head coach after 1 year. And Frank Vogel was the previous head coach. And then, like I mentioned before, Monty Williams was the head coach before Frank Vogel, and he was let go. So, yeah, it just hasn't been a good few years for the Suns. And now they're actually paying, Budenholzer still. They're still paying Frank Vogel. I'll get you the specific numbers because obviously these two individuals have not, coached out their contracts. But yeah, so they still are paying Frank Vogel his $31 million contract, $50 million for Budenholzer. So, yeah, that's $81 million owed for two coaches that are not going to be coaching their team. So, that's not good. And, it's just a lot went into this, of course. I mean, the Suns, they were just a major disappointment this year. It didn't seem like the players connected with him. Stuff with the rotations and not using certain players enough. The team was not good defensively. He's known for being also a defensive-minded, head coach. And, the Suns didn't really play defense so well, right? They were towards the bottom in overall defense. So you had that. But, you know, I think also he was kind of the fall guy as well, because this is a team effort, right? The front office puts together this roster, and you got to coach what you're dealing with. So, and the Suns, they thought when they got Kevin Durant that they were really going for it, that, hey, we're going to be finals contenders. We're going to be a championship caliber team. We're going to get there. We're going to win one. That didn't happen. It wasn't the right mix of players. I really think, the Bradley Beal trade really set them back. And like I've been saying, I think their window was when they made it to the finals with Chris Paul. You had Mikal Bridges, DeAndre Ayton. Monty Williams was the coach. When they played against the Bucks, that was it right there. And oddly enough, Budenholzer was the coach of that Bucks team that won the championship. So, yeah, that was their chance to win it. And, since then, they took, a step back. And now they really took a step back, because now they just didn't even make the playoffs. Last year was a first-round exit. This year, you don't even make the playoffs. And, it's going to be interesting what they do this offseason. Kevin Durant is not going to be on the team next year. Bradley Beal, who knows if they're even going to be able to move him, if he wants to be moved. I've been saying I don't think they should, trade Devin Booker. I think that's still your franchise guy. You got to keep him around. You got to have pieces to build around, and he is a major piece. So, yeah, they got some decisions to make in the offseason. Now, I was looking up, who could potentially, take over. I know there was an article that had several different candidates. David Fizdale is on there. Steve Nash. Dan Hurley. We know he interviewed for the Lakers job last year, but is he going to want to leave UConn? I don't know. Maybe he's up for a new challenge. UConn, was not able to three-peat, which I think we all figured that wasn't going to happen because they weren't as loaded as they were the previous 2 years. But could he make that jump to the NBA? Could this be a spot that, he potentially take? I don't know. Some other names as well from what I was looking at. But, yeah. Well, we'll see what they end up doing. But, yeah, like I said, Budenholzer, he was a 2021 NBA champion with the Bucks. Like I said, 9 playoff appearances in 11 seasons. He had a .693 winning percentage with the Bucks. But yeah, it's just, couldn't get it done. They were hoping he was going to be the difference here, but it did not happen. And it's also just, for a lot of people's eyes, it's a bad reflection on Kevin Durant, because it's just, again, it's another destination where he goes to a team and it just doesn't work out. The Nets and the Suns, it just has not worked out. They were 2 major disappointments. We saw Kenny Atkinson. He was forced out. He's redeemed himself. Look at what he's doing in Cleveland. Steve Nash, that didn't work. And then he goes to the Suns, and 3 head coaches later, Suns are without a coach, and he's going to end up getting traded. So, yeah, not good. And I really want to see where he ends up, next year. Where is he going to go? Because I think there's this narrative out there that he's a culture destroyer. Well, I don't know if it's that. I don't think it's that. I think it's, look, Kevin Durant, and he said this in Brooklyn, he just wants to go out there and hoop. And these organizations, they try to, surround him with as much talent as possible, but it just has not panned out. I feel like it could have, see, the Suns I feel like is different, right? Because Bradley Beal hasn't been great. I think he's also been hurt. But I feel like in Brooklyn, it would have worked had the surrounding pieces, stayed healthy. Now Harden kind of, he wanted out. The Nets wanted Kyrie out. Well, he wanted out, but I think the Nets they couldn't wait to get rid of him because of everything that was going on. But I think had, Durant and Kyrie and Harden, if they all stayed healthy, I think maybe they could have did something. But it's just that window closed in a hurry. And, of course, Durant, he ends up getting traded to Phoenix, and Harden goes to the Sixers, and now he's with the Clippers, and Kyrie's in Dallas. It's just, and the Nets were left with nothing. Now they're trying to rebuild and pick up the pieces. And, for the Suns, they, I think, are in a better spot because you still have Devin Booker. You still, like I said, you still have that franchise player you could build around. But it's just very disappointing. And, with Durant, I shouldn't really say he's a culture destroyer. It's just he's really just the common denominator in these last two destinations. He goes to a team and everything just kind of falls apart. Whether it's directly his fault or not, that's just what it's been. But the Suns actually, I think with Durant, I wanted to say, because I was looking at the record with and without Durant this year, they, I think, were 33-29 with him, and then they were 3-17 without him. Like, they ended up losing every single game pretty much after he got hurt. And he missed the final, week or so. Because the Suns, they ended up finishing 36-46. And they did end up winning a game. They beat the Spurs 117-98. But yeah, they finished 1-9 in their final 10 games. So, we'll see if Budenholzer will get another job. I'm sure he will. These coaches, they seem to be going all over the place. Trading places. So, I think he could end up with another job somewhere. Michael Malone, of course, he's out of a job. So we'll see if the Pelicans job ends up opening up, because I know they've made some moves. Maybe one of them wants to go there and coach Zion. But let me know what you guys think, though, about the Suns letting go of Mike Budenholzer. Where do you think he could potentially end up if there's a job opening? Like I said, the Pelicans, could be an option. If they let go of their head coach. I don't think they've done that yet. The Nuggets, the Nuggets are going to need a head coach. The Grizzlies, there's opportunities out there. So we'll see what happens. So before we go to break, I just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. It makes the show more lively, more entertaining. Between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers, we appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCPodcast.net. That is GSMCPodcast.net. So, when we come back from our next break, we will talk a little bit about baseball. We'll talk Padres, Cubs when we come back. A little bit later in the show, we will talk about Aaron Judge being named team captain of the USA team for the World Baseball Classic. So that's exciting stuff right there. But yeah, no, baseball is in full swing right now. Cubs Padres did play last night. We'll talk about how that game went. And then a little bit later in the show, we'll get into football. We'll do the post-free agency rankings for the AFC East. So, yeah, moving right along here. Again, let me know what you guys think, though, about, the play-in games for tonight, who you have winning those games. And, yeah, so that is what we are going to do when we come back from our next break. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are going to talk about two of the hottest teams in the National League. They're going at it, 3-game set between the Cubs and the Padres. They both have gotten off to very good starts. As my dog starts barking. They played the first game last night. Cubs were up 3-1. Padres scored 9 runs in the final three innings that they hit, because there was no bottom of the ninth inning, obviously. They won 10-4 last night. The pitching matchup last night, Jameson Taillon went 5 2/3 for the Cubs. He gave up 2 runs, but the Cubs bullpen was not good. They gave up the other 8 runs. And then for the Padres last night, Dylan Cease pitched. He went 5 2/3. He gave up 2 earned runs, 7 hits, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. And the Padres bullpen has been very good in the early going. They nailed it down. They only gave up 1 run. But 3 hits last night for Luis Arraez. Fernando Tatis went yard last night. Gavin Sheets, he's gotten off to a good start for the Padres. He's batting .333 on the season as a .907 OPS. He had a couple of hits. Jose Iglesias had 2 RBIs last night. For the Cubs, though, we've kind of gone over them already, but Kyle Tucker's looked really good in the Cubs uniform. Michael Busch, Nico Horner, he's gotten off to a good start as well. 3 hits last night for Pete Crow Armstrong. And right now the Cubs, they sit on top of the NL Central. They are a game and a half up on the other teams right now. Although the Reds have looked better as of late. They've won 3 in a row. The Cardinals have won 2 in a row. Brewers have lost 3 straight. The Padres, they have won 5 straight games now. They're 11-0 at home this season. They're 3-3 on the road, 11-0 this season. They got a plus 36 run differential. So, you got the top 2 teams in terms of run differential right now. The Cubs are at plus 37, but they have 120 runs scored on the year, and the Padres are plus 36. They have 83 runs scored, 47 against. Cubs have 83 runs against. Padres pitching has definitely been better than the Cubs, and also, the Cubs doesn't really help when you have Justin Steele, one of your top starters, go down. But I talked about the Cubs before the year. This was a big year for Craig Counsell because he was brought in to be a difference maker as the manager of the Cubs. And last year they didn't make the playoffs, but you got Kyle Tucker. And, I think that helps the lineup out a lot. Sorry, I was holding back a sneeze. So far he's gotten off to a good start. The Cubs are hoping to extend him. We'll see if that ends up happening at the end of the year. But, their lineup looks good. Their pitching, it's a little iffy right now, but, if they're in a good spot. They can maybe go and trade for a starter right now. Because looking at the team totals, looking at team ERA, so the Padres right now the Padres are second in team ERA in the entire league. Their team ERA is 2.7, and when we look at the Cubs, they're 20th. Their team ERA is a 4.37. So yeah, Cubs, they got some good Padres got some good starters. They got a good bullpen. They lead in wins, also in strikeouts. Let's see where they are in strikeouts. They're 8th in strikeouts. They're second in walks and hits per inning, WHIP 1.07. The Reds actually are first. They're 0.92. Yeah, no, both teams are playing really good baseball. And we talked about the Padres as well, what's going to happen this year because of, everything going on with the front office and, are they going to be able to afford their team? But they've gotten off to a very good start. It's amazing how a couple years ago they had Juan Soto and the team finished around 500. Last year they were very good. They made the playoffs, and, they had a chance to knock off the Dodgers. They came up short. And this year, a 14-3 start is very impressive. And that's not just the best record in the National League. That's the best record in baseball right now. And, you got the Giants, who are a game and a half behind them. Dodgers are 2.5 games behind. Diamondbacks are 4.5 games behind. This NL West is just incredible. You could see, 4 teams from that division, from the NL West, make the playoffs. But, we're ways away from that right now. So, but the National League is very good. But, so tonight they will play their second game. It'll be Shota Imanaga, who's gotten off to a good start. He's 2-1 with a 2.7 ERA against Randy Vasquez, former Yankee. 1-1 with a 1.72 ERA on the year. So, and I got to tell you, as a Yankee fan, I do miss that pitching depth with him. I also do miss Michael King, but the Yankees did that trade last year because, they had to, and I wouldn't have gone back and changed that. They got to the World Series, but now they're kind of paying the price a little bit. But, that's the pitching matchup for tonight. And then Wednesday, because I think this is just a 3-game set. So it'll be Matthew Boyd against Nick Pivetta. So Nick Pavetta's actually gotten off to a pretty good start for the Padres. So, yeah. And then, from some of the other scores around the league, the Pirates won 10-3 last night against the Nationals. Paul Skeens, he picked up his second win of the season. The Giants won 10-4. They continue to play well. They beat up on Taijuan Walker. Yankees won 4-1 over the Royals. The Rays won 16-1 over the Red Sox. Not a good start for Tanner Houck. The Braves won 8-4 over the Blue Jays. Mets won 5-1. Juan Soto homered last night. Clay Holmes pitched 5 innings. He's 2-1 on the year. The Tigers. The Tigers are a sneaky good team this year. I feel like doesn't get talked about enough. Their pitching is really good. Tariq Skubal, 7 innings last night, 7 shutout innings last night. He had 9 strikeouts. They're 10-6. I have the Guardians winning the division, but I was tempted to maybe take the Tigers. But they're legit. They're legit. The Cardinals are 8-8. They won 8-3 last night over the Astros, and then the Dodgers, of course, they won 5-3 over the Rockies. Dustin May pitched last night. He pitched really well. Tanner Scott picked up his 5th save of the season. So that's what's going on. And then everybody's in action tonight. And, we'll see what happens. But let me know what you guys think, though, about the Cubs and the Padres. Again, both teams are playing really well. Can they keep it up? For the Padres, I feel like they definitely can. For the Cubs, more of a wait-and-see approach. Just because, we've seen the Padres, what they could do in the past. Again, like they finished around 500 in 2023. But outside of that, they made it to the NLCS in 2022. Last year, they were really good. This year, they've gotten off to a good start. So they have that proven track record. For the Cubs, they had that collapse at the end of 2023 and they missed out. I remember I was doing the baseball show and I'm like, yeah, they're going to make the playoffs. They'll be in the wild card. and then they just collapsed and missed out, and then that allowed the Diamondbacks to get in, and look what happened. The Diamondbacks made it all the way to the World Series. And then last year, again, they didn't make it. So let's see what happens this year. I think this year, right now, so far so good. It looks a little bit different. But, you got some other teams in the Central that are playing well. The Brewers, after getting off to a tough start, they've kind of, evened things out. They're around 500. I mean, they lost they've lost their last 3, but still around 500. Nobody's running away with anything in that division. The Cubs the other thing, too, is the Cubs have also played more games than the other teams because, the Tokyo series. So, but yeah, the Reds are playing well. Cardinals are playing well. Pirates, they won yesterday, but, wins are going to be tough to come by with that team. So, yeah, we'll see how it all plays out. But it's a competitive division. Definitely will say that. So, when we come back from our next break, we will talk about Aaron Judge being named team captain of Team USA for the World Baseball Classic. That will be taking place next season. So really excited about that. We will get into that when we come back from our next break. The World Baseball Classic. A lot of people were locked in on that, back in 2023. So, I think now with Judge being involved, there's definitely going to be more interest there, at least for me. I think I did tune in a little bit and watched it. I think I had the game on when it was Ohtani against Trout. I might be wrong, but I did watch it. I did tune in to watch it at times. So, yeah, but that we'll get into talking about, Judge being named the captain, what he had to say about, being named the captain, all that when we come back. So, yeah, so exciting stuff there for him. And, yeah, that will be the second to last segment of the day when we come back from our next break. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast, and for the fourth part of the show, we are now going to talk about Aaron Judge being named team captain for Team USA in the World Baseball Classic. So, Mark DeRosa, who is going to be the manager once again for the Team USA team, I said team twice, for Team USA, he made this, they had a little bit of a press conference with Judge, and, they talked about, him being named team captain. The previous team captain was Mike Trout, and I think when DeRosa found out that Judge had interest in playing in the World Baseball Classic, because he hasn't done that, he asked Mike Trout, DeRosa did, and said, what do you think of Aaron Judge being the captain? And Trout said he's the guy. So, Trout gave the blessing of that. And, yeah, so Judge is going to be team captain. And, look, I mean, Mike Trout, of course, he's first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, Judge is a first ballot Hall of Famer, too. But, Trout's been doing this longer than Judge. I mean, it's amazing. And Trout's gotten off to a good start this year, thankfully. And hopefully that continues. The Angels have gotten off to a good start. Want Mike Trout to continue to stay healthy and play well. But right now, when looking at the landscape Who is the best player to, be the captain of this team? And I think there's nobody better than Aaron Judge at this current moment in time. He's won 2 MVPs. The home run record in the American League he broke a few years ago now, hitting 62 home runs. He's the captain of the Yankees, who, I know a lot of people, dislike the Yankees. I understand that. But the Yankees are a global brand, and this is a global event, really, with the World Baseball Classic. This brings a lot of, fans from different, parts of the world, different cultures. It is a great way for baseball to showcase, their talent internationally. And, I think when talking about the USA team, I think this is a great decision for them to do this. Because he is the best player in baseball. In my opinion. Now, we'll see what happens when Ohtani returns to the pitching mound, how he does. But right now, Aaron Judge is the best player in the league. But, of course, that'll always be a debate. But Ohtani's not playing for Team USA. He's going to be playing for Japan. So, that's... We don't have to worry about that that debate. But, yeah, and, Judge... of course, is very gracious of this opportunity. He talked about the men and women that have, fought for the U.S. and gave, players the opportunity to play the game freely. It's all that. Said all the right things. Now, what was interesting is that, they asked him, were the Yankees aware of your decision? And he said no. Now, I don't think anybody should really make a big deal out of that because, had the Yankees have known, what were they going to say? No. Now, a couple of years ago, when the World Baseball Classic was held, Judge was coming off of the 62 home run season, and then, we had the contract stuff going on. So there was a lot going on for Aaron Judge. So now that that's behind him, now he's under contract, doesn't have to worry about that. Now he has the opportunity to play in this, and, let's see what he does. But I know there's going to be a lot of people out there. I know I saw, a gif of, him dropping the ball in center field when there was a post of, him being named team captain. I get it. And I think this would be good for him because these are going to be big games. These games are playoff-like. So Judge goes out there and he plays well in these games. As a Yankee fan, you hope that, well, actually, this is going to happen next year. So let's hope that, this year he plays well in the postseason, he plays well in the WBC, and then he plays well again in the playoffs. That is, of course, if they make it. And, if they go on, if Team USA goes on a deep run, again, you hope he plays well. So, yeah, I was trying to say, because, again, I got the time mixed up, because he's World Baseball Classics next year, so we're going to have the postseason this year. That is, of course, if the Yankees make it. I want to see Judge play well in these big games, because, it's been tough at times. And, I think he receives a lot of heat, and rightfully so, because, again, he plays for the Yankees, but he's one of the most humble players, one of the most humble athletes in all of sports. And he's a guy that I don't think deserves the criticism. But, yeah, look, he dropped the ball in center field in the World Series. I get it, But I was not going to turn my back on him after that. Was I very upset in the moment? Absolutely I was. Like I've told you guys many times, I was in this very room when, well, I wasn't in this room when he dropped the ball. I was downstairs. But I was in this very room when the lead was gone in the 5th inning of Game 5 of the World Series. So the tournament actually, back to the WBC. The tournament will take place in San Juan, Tokyo, Houston, and Miami, with the semifinals and finals held in Miami. And I would love to see that stadium filled, for the Marlins, because the only time you really see it is for an All-Star game or the WBC. Team USA will be in Pool B, which will play in Houston. Judge is focused on leading Team USA to its second ever WBC title, hoping to bring home the gold for the first time since 2017. He believes Team USA will have a strong lineup and bullpen with plenty of exciting young talent, eager to represent the country. And actually, I wanted to go to what exactly Judge said on being named team captain. Something special, getting a chance to represent our country. I was just thinking about all the brave men and women that have fought for this country and laid their lives down for us. To get a chance to go out here and play a game, it's pretty humbling. And actually, so he is the... at the time, Judge felt he should be with the Yankees, who are just... Oh, wait, actually, yeah, no, he was named the first team captain of the Yankees since Derek Jeter. We knew that. I thought it was the first time a Yankees been named team captain for Team USA since Jeter. Because I don't know, was Jeter ever team captain for USA? I mean, I feel like he should have been, but I don't know. Again, not 100% sure on that. But yeah, so DeRosa did call Mike Trout about the idea, and yeah, Trout just said he should be. Aaron Boone said, I think Judge is the perfect face to be the captain of Team USA. In a lot of ways, he's certainly one of the faces of baseball. That's a big reason why, we've said that. Such a magnetic personality that people gravitate to, that people around the game love and respect. I think he'll be great. Judge said he hopes Trout will return to play in the 2026 WBC. Judge said he better be out there patrolling the outfield with me, but he doesn't plan to actively recruit other talent. He probably won't need to. So, we'll see. Judge said you have a bunch of guys that compete against each other all year long, and now to bring us all together, it's going to be something special. We play this game for such a small amount of time, so to get an opportunity like this, I think guys will really gravitate towards it. I feel like Mark DeRosa, had the recipe in 2023 to get into the championship. They had great pitching, great bullpen, and pitching staff. I think we can add a couple of new pieces with a lot of young players in this game that are exciting and definitely want to represent their country. I think this team is going to be on a mission. So, yeah, no, but we got to wait a little bit. It'll be held next year, but it's exciting. It's exciting what's to come here. But let me know what you guys think, though, about Judge being named the team captain for the WBC. Again, hope he plays well, because obviously, if he doesn't, people on social media are, of course, going to have something to say, because that's what they do. That's what they do. But Team USA is going to be good. Japan is going to be good, of course. So, and that's what the finals were a couple of years ago. So, we'll see what happens. But Aaron Judge, congratulations being named team captain of the USA team. The right guy for it. So, when we come back from our final break of the show, we will talk about football a little bit. We will do the post-free agency rankings for the AFC East. So, the first AFC division that we will cover here. And, that will take us right to the end of the show for today. So, for one final time today, make sure to stick around. And we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are now going to do our post-free agency rankings for the AFC East. So let's start off with number 4. Number 4, I am going to say it's the New York Jets. Now, when you hear me say that, you could go back and clip all the shows that I did on the football podcast when I said that I was taking the Jets to win the AFC East last year. That obviously didn't happen. However, again, I will defend myself. I also kept saying, along with that, I am going into a storm that I could get engulfed by. And oh boy, did I get engulfed by that storm. Now, when I look at this division, I think this division is going to be improved. I think the Jets, they did win 5 games last year. Could they win maybe more? Possibly. I think it also depends on coaching. I think it also depends on, if Aaron Glenn is the right man for the job, which I hope he is, for Jet fans' sake. Because, enough is enough. They've gone through so many head coaches and GMs, similar to the other team in New York as well. Something's got to change. Now, they're going to have a new quarterback under center, Justin Fields, a 2-year, $40 million deal. And, I do like that move for the Jets, and Aaron Glenn's talked about wanting him to play quarterback, to be a passer, and not just a runner. Now, they are going to use that, and this Jets team is going to run the football, with Breece Hall and the other running backs that they have, Isaiah Davis and Braylon Allen. You got Garrett Wilson, of course. So, it's going to be interesting how this offense looks. You're not going to have Aaron Rodgers who's going to drop back and, throw it from the pocket. You're going to have a mobile quarterback. But, yeah, I do think the Jets can win some games this year. But, yeah, the wide receiver depth is not great, behind Garrett Wilson. They did right now, but he could be a guy that they release, when we get closer to, when we're around the preseason. But, yeah, they signed Justin Fields. They signed, they didn't sign a lot of household names. They did sign Tyler Johnson and Josh Reynolds. Again, add to the receiver room. Not great. Great receiver room outside of Garrett Wilson, like I said. They re-signed Jamie and Sherwood to a 3-year deal. But, yeah, they really just did not make a lot of, needle mover signings. Andre Sisco they brought in for a safety. They needed that on the defensive side of the ball. Now, can the defense be better than it was last year? I think sure. I think so. But I don't know. For me, I'm putting them in last for right now. I do have the Patriots at 3. I think the Patriots are going to be a much improved team, right? They won 4 games last year. You bring in Mike Vrabel now as the head coach, and I saw a clip of him in one of the team meetings. He means business. And the Patriots were very active in the offseason. They signed a couple of former Buffalo Bills receivers, Stephon Diggs and Matt Collins. They brought back Austin Hooper, who they had at tight end last year, along with Hunter Henry. They signed some offensive linemen. They signed Morgan Moses. They signed a guard, a center. Added pieces to the defense as well. They they signed Harold Landry over from Tennessee, who was with Mike Vrabel. They signed Robert Spillane, Carlton Davis, Milton Williams. So I really like what the Patriots have done, and we still got the draft. And Drake May in year 2. The Patriots, we'll see what they do with the 4th overall pick. Could they go defensive line? Could they go offensive line? I think you will see them draft some playmakers to this team. Depending on, if Travis Hunter falls to them somehow at 4, I think that's a no-brainer. You take him. But, or the Patriots, could they trade out? Could they trade down? They could definitely do that as well. But I really like what they did. The defense, I think, will be improved. I think with Josh McDaniels now back as the offensive coordinator, I think, the offense will look better. with Drake May again, now in year 2. Well, now it's going to be year 1 of a new system, but I feel like he'll get it down. And he showed that, he could be the franchise guy for the Patriots last year. But, they got him a number 1 wide receiver in Diggs. So, and he, we've seen the videos of him, practicing, working out that knee since the injury and since the surgery. And, at least from what we see, he looks good. So, if Diggs can at least be not exactly what he was, of course, with the Bills, but, maybe close to that. Either way, I think he's an upgrade at receiver because the Patriots really have been lacking in the playmaker department. So, but I got them at 3 as of right now. At 2, I have the Dolphins. Dolphins last year didn't make the playoffs. Tua got hurt. Had Tua stayed healthy, they probably, make it, in my opinion. But, not a lot of needle movers on their end. They added Nick Westbrook-Akine, who had a good year last year for Tennessee. They brought in Alexander Mattison in the running back room to replace Raheem Mostert, and Mostert replaced Madison as he went to Vegas. They re-signed a bunch of guys. They brought back Braxton Berrios, one of those guys that I'm referring to. They signed Zach Wilson to be the backup quarterback, and I think for Dolphins fans, they're hoping that they don't see Zach Wilson at all because that would mean Tua is hurt again. But yeah, not a lot of big signings for the Dolphins. But I still think this is the second best team in the division. They have a lot of offensive talent, with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. The defense, I think, is, a concern for them. But I still think this is the second best team in the division. And this is a big year for Mike McDaniel. So we'll see how it goes. But I got the Dolphins at 2. And then at 1, I got the Buffalo Bills. They won the division last year. Josh Allen won MVP. They extended some guys this offseason, Terrell Benford, Khalil Shakir, Greg Rousseau. They did release Von Miller, but they signed Dane Jackson, a corner. They signed Larry Ogunjobi, Joey Bosa, and Michael Hoyt. So they added to the defensive line, although Hoyt and Ogunjobi are going to be suspended for the beginning of the season. But Joey Bosa, 1-year deal, low risk, high reward signing. The Bills, they need a better pass rush. Could he provide that? We'll see. And, we'll see what happens when they bring, when Michael Hoyt and Ogunjobi come back from their suspensions. They also did sign Joshua Palmer as well to add to that receiver room. I think that the Bills are also hoping that, Keon Coleman takes a big step forward next year. Because they got him, they got Shakir. There's no more Amari Cooper. He's still unsigned. Waiting to see when he ends up getting signed by someone. Could he go back to Dallas? Maybe. Who knows? Bills, I guess, are not bringing him back. But yeah, so I guess the receiving core is pretty much set unless maybe the Bills address it at some point during the draft. Yeah, they had another receiver. But, so to kind of run through the rankings again, Jets I have 4, Patriots 3, Dolphins 2, and the Bills I have at 1. So let me know what you guys think about those rankings. How would you rank the teams in the AFC East? Tomorrow we'll do the AFC North. AFC North will be tomorrow, so we'll go through them, and then the rest of the divisions, the remaining 2 after that. And then it's draft week next week. So a lot of draft stuff coming up. So we will make sure to cover all of that. There's some things that we didn't get to today that maybe I'll cover tomorrow in terms of the draft, in terms of some of the prospects, visiting with teams or being at private workouts with teams holding private workouts for those players, because the Giants are holding one with Shedeur Sanders. So, we'll talk about that because, that could be a possibility for the Giants, at 3. It's either going to be Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, or Shedeur Sanders. The Giants are taking someone at 3. Like, I don't see them trading down. If they trade down, I think they're making a mistake. But, Yeah. So, appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure to check out all the other shows as well. And if you want to listen to us on the go, wherever you get your podcasts, we're on there as well. Just make sure to look up GSMC, sports podcast, football podcast. We're all on there. Make sure to subscribe, like, and comment on our videos, on our YouTube channels. Really appreciate that. And, so until next time, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder signing off from the GSMC Sports Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the